The NBA offseason is always filled with a lot of excitement, whether it's around the NBA draft, NBA free agency, or NBA trades. And that's what I'm going to focus on today's show. I'm going to break down 5 offseason trade candidates for this year's offseason in the NBA. Let's start with Chris Paul of the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now, CP3 got traded to the Thunder, and everyone immediately thought they were going to move on from him. Ended up, he stayed in OKC, and he's actually been a very, very successful player there, and he's led this team back to the playoffs. He was named to the Western Conference All-Star team, and he's really revitalized his career in OKC, even though he's 34 years old. However, this offseason is going to be a big one for the Thunder. Danilo Gallinari is going to be a free agent. CP3 could get moved, and if both those things happen, that means they're embracing a full-on rebuild in Oklahoma City. Now, right now, the Thunder are stacked at the guard position. They've got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They've got Chris Paul. They also have Dennis Schroeder on their roster. All 3 of those guys are starting caliber guards in the NBA. But right now, it kind of comes down to who do you want running this offense for the next 5 to 10 years? Do you want CP3, who's already 34 years old, or do you want a 22-year-old Shai Gilgeous-Alexander who was on the brink of making an all-star team in his second year? This year, SGA put up 19 points per game and averaged 6 rebounds. Not as many assists as Chris Paul because he was usually playing the 2 position while CP3 was out there. And again, the dude's just 22. So if they look to hand the keys from Chris Paul to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, that means they're going to have to trade CP3 and his massive contract. Now, I'm not 100% convinced they're ready to do it. In fact, I would predict that he stays in Oklahoma City. But if they move on from him, some teams that can make some sense are the New York Knicks, who need a veteran leader at point guard. The Los Angeles Lakers. Now, the Lakers probably don't have the trade pieces to make it happen, but they do want another point guard next to LeBron James. Maybe the 76ers are ready to move on from Ben Simmons. Hint, hint, we'll be talking about them later in the show. The Milwaukee Bucks, they have a very small window right now with Giannis there until 2021, and then Chris Middleton, and maybe they need a veteran point guard to help lead them to a championship. Chris Paul could be that. Or maybe it's the Miami Heat, who were linked to Chris Paul last summer and now could turn back around and maybe pick him up this next offseason. So go ahead and make your predictions down below in the comment section. If you're watching on YouTube right now, you're probably going to get hit with an ad break, so I'm going to make this the pinned comment. While that ad kind of rolls on through, I want you guys to tell me, where do you think Chris Paul is going to be playing next season? Now let's talk about Buddy Hield of the Sacramento Kings. Buddy Hield has been a sharpshooter ever since he came out of Oklahoma. He's a little bit older than everyone thought, but here's the thing. Now he's upset with that Kings organization. Not only is he upset with his playing time, but he's upset with the direction that Sacramento is headed at this point in time. And if that's the case, Buddy Hield could be traded. Sacramento Kings just traded in their front office. They've got a whole new front office in there. And they've said, look, everybody's on the block besides De'Aaron Fox and Marvin Bagley. Anybody could get moved. And I think Buddy Hield is a prime candidate for that. Now, he just signed a 4-year, $94 million contract, and he has lived up to it. His stats have earned him that kind of money. The Kings, on the other hand, they haven't held up their end of the deal. Now, Buddy Hield's putting up 19 points per game and 5 rebounds, dishing out 3 assists, and shooting better than 39% from 3. He's been one of the best three-point shooters in the NBA since he came out of OU. Now, he's also the second leading scorer for the Sacramento Kings. De'Aaron Fox, who is completely untouchable for that team, is averaging 21 points per game, and then closely behind is Buddy Hield at 19. Now, Bogdan Bogdanovic is going to be a free agent. He's averaging 15 points per game. Harrison Barnes is there as the veteran leader. And Marvin Bagley, although he only played in about 13 games this year, is averaging 14 points per game. Now, if Buddy Hield is moved, the Kings better get a lot in return. But Buddy Hield said he's not happy in Sacramento. He wants to move on. He doesn't like the way Luke Walton is playing him. So I would not be surprised to see Buddy Hield on the trading block this offseason. Now, no matter who you're a fan of, Fanatics is the best place to shop for all NBA gear, including some fresh new NBA hats, which are all on sale right now, starting as low as $3. No matter who you're a fan of, no matter what team hat you want to rep, you can go to Fanatics right now at chatsports.com/NBA hat. Find your team, find your logo. You get up in the morning, you have bedhead, you don't want to be getting your hair all fixed up. Just throw a hat on over it and get a cheap one at chatsports.com/NBA hat. Now we're going to keep the show rolling here with our 5 off-season trade candidates inside the NBA. We went Chris Paul. We went Buddy Hield. Now we're going to a big power forward in Aaron Gordon of the Orlando Magic. Now, Aaron Gordon, listen, I've talked about him multiple times on trade shows. He's still just 24 years old. He's a great athlete, but he hasn't been getting it done in Orlando like we kind of all expected him to. Right now, he's hurt in the NBA bubble. He's not playing in the first round of the playoffs against the Milwaukee Bucks, although that obviously didn't hurt them in the first game as they still came out with the win. But the problem with Aaron Gordon is that Orlando's already overloaded at that big man position. They've got Nikola Vucevic. They want to get more minutes for Jonathan Isaac when he's healthy. Mo Bamba is there in the middle as well. And Aaron Gordon's kind of playing that 3, even though he's more of a 4 in today's NBA. Now, when healthy, you got Markelle Fultz and Evan Fournier in that backcourt, Jonathan Isaac and Aaron Gordon and Nikola Vucevic. On paper, this lineup should be really good. But Aaron Gordon isn't as good of a shooter as they expected him to be after he came out of Arizona. And since he's just 24 years old, the Magic feel like they can get a lot of value in return in an off-season trade. And there's already been multiple teams linked to Aaron Gordon that could make a move for him. The Golden State Warriors have been the most notable. There have been talks of them potentially swapping an Andrew Wiggins for an Aaron Gordon. The Minnesota Timberwolves would love to have a power forward next to Karl Anthony Towns and with D'Angelo Russell there as well. The Phoenix Suns are probably 1 or 2 pieces away from being true playoff contenders in the Western Conference now, and Aaron Gordon could be that piece alongside DeAndre Ayton and Devin Booker. Now, the Dallas Mavericks, they've got Luka, they've got KP, but who is their 4? Right now, KP's playing the 5, and Aaron Gordon could make some sense, although he probably doesn't provide the kind of shooting the Dallas Mavericks value so much. Finally, the Portland Trailblazers. They're a good team as well with Damian Lillard and Yusuf Nurkic. They could use a power forward upgrade since Zach Collins is in and out of the lineup with injuries. Now, I listed out those 5 teams, but maybe you've got a different team in mind. I want you to shout it out in the comment section. Which team should trade for Aaron Gordon this offseason? Again, 24 years old, should be a slam dunk contest champion. Not a great shooter, but an incredible athlete with a really high ceiling. So let me know which team should trade for Aaron Gordon. Now let's talk about a former MVP, one of the real just sweethearts of the NBA that everyone loves. It's Derrick Rose of the Detroit Pistons. And everyone thinks, D-Rose, it's time to get out of Detroit because everyone wants to see Derrick Rose succeed. He's not going to succeed in Detroit. That team is still building. Now, they got Luke Kennard, they've got Blake Griffin, they've got Sekou Doumbouya, they've got some fun pieces, but Derrick Rose is ready to win right now. He's not going to be around for much longer, and I think it's time for him to move on. I think it's time for the Pistons to say, look, we're ready, we're willing to part with him if we can get some draft compensation in return. Now, you look at the former MVP stats over the last few years. He spent the 2017-2018 season with the Cleveland Cavaliers, and things got really ugly. Everyone thought he was on the brink of retirement as he averaged 8 points per game and shot worse than 23% from 3. Then he goes to Minnesota and totally turns it around, and in Detroit as well this past year with 18 points per game off the bench, 5 assists, 3 rebounds, and played in over 100 games over the past 2 years. Good for Derrick Rose. And you know what? I want to see him on a championship contender. And you know who one championship contender is that needs a point guard? The Los Angeles Lakers. They've got Avery Bradley and they've got Rajon Rondo, but both of those guys could be free agents this summer. Now, the Lakers have already shown interest in Derrick Rose at the trade deadline. They called up Detroit and said, hey, we will give you a young piece for him right now. We will give you Alex Caruso for him right now. And the Pistons hung up the phone. They didn't want to do that trade. They felt the Lakers were not giving them enough draft compensation for them to move on from Derrick Rose. But now, the Lakers could circle back around this offseason and call the Pistons up and say, hey, we want him. What do you want for him? We're going to make it happen. So I'm ready to see Derrick Rose go to a contender. I don't think he will be on the Pistons next season. Now, if you want to see where all the moves are happening and who goes where and who gets drafted where and what's happening in the NBA playoffs, we got it all for you here on Chat Sports. If you're subscribed, if you're one of our over 185,000 subscribers, you already know we're doing it better than anybody on the entire internet. But when you go to youtube.com/chatsportstv and hit that subscribe button, you're getting free NBA coverage every single day. From me, from Tom Downey, from Harrison Graham, everybody and anybody is going to help you out with the NBA coverage here on Chat Sports. Now let's keep it rolling. I got one more trade candidate, but I kind of cheated the system, okay? This is my show, so I make the rules. I know I said 5 off-season trade candidates, but this is really 2 lumped into one because one of Ben Simmons or Joel Embiid could be moved this offseason for the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, the duo, incredible. 23 points from Embiid, 11 rebounds. I think he's the second best center in the NBA. Ben Simmons, a top-tier point guard or power forward or point forward, whatever you want to call him, at 16 points per game, 8 rebounds, 8 assists. But the problem is the two just don't mesh that well on the court. You got two guys who don't shoot the ball that well. Both of them are basically big men, and Ben Simmons is playing a point guard position in a big man's body. And now the 76ers are starting to suffer from it. They finished 6th in the Eastern Conference. They're playing a tough first-round matchup with the Boston Celtics. And if they don't get past this first round, Brett Brown could be gone, and one of those two stars could get traded this offseason. Tim Bontemps of ESPN had this to say about the Philadelphia 76ers. Quote, if Philadelphia fails to advance past the second round for the third straight season, imagine that, 3 years in the postseason, 3 first-round exits. The job statuses of Coach Brett Brown and General Manager Elton Brand will come into question, and the possibility of trading either Ben Simmons or Joel Embiid will begin to gain traction. So I got it all here for you. I would not be surprised to see either of these guys moved. Ben Simmons isn't even playing in the playoffs right now, and the Boston Celtics, I believe, will take that series in 5 or 6 games. So let me know in the comment section. This is how we're going to end today's show. You've made it all the way to the end of the show, and the best way to let me know that you did that is by voting on this simple poll. Which one should the 76ers trade this offseason? Type B for Ben Simmons, type J for Joel Embiid. Shout it out down in the comment section.